Hello, everyone. As always, thank you for joining us today for today's Daily Bible Reading. I'm Khalil, and today we're going to be picking up with 2 Samuel. Last we left off yesterday, we concluded the book of 1 Samuel, and we got to see David, how he went and started living in the land of Ziklag, and he even started serving under the king of the Philistines. And one of the more notable things that we saw was the death of Saul and his son Jonathan. While they're in battle against the Philistines, Saul was struck to where he would nearly die. He asked his armor bearer to kill him, but the armor bearer refused and would not do it. So Saul fell on his own sword and killed himself, while Jonathan died from what I believe it was an arrow. The point being, both Saul, the first king of Israel, and his son Jonathan are both now dead. And that'll be important because we'll be picking up exactly where we left off when we enter 2 Samuel. With that being said, before we get into 2 Samuel for today, we need to start today with our daily Proverbs. And since today is the 25th, we'll be starting today with Proverbs 25. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Proverbs 25 and verse 1. These are also Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied out. So Solomon, we haven't seen him yet, but he is the son of David, the third king of Israel, and who's also known to be the wisest, because he was given his wisdom from the Lord. And that's really what all the book of Proverbs are. And that's what a proverb is in general, a wise saying, right? A wise saying to teach you wisdom. Sometimes it could be in the form of a metaphor. Sometimes it can just be saying something outright, right? But these Proverbs of Solomon, right? It is glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. The Lord knows all things. It's like Deuteronomy 29 and 29, if you don't know it. It says, the secret things belongeth to the Lord, right? The Lord knows all things, and he is in control of all things. And it's his honor to hide a matter, right? To conceal a thing. Because the Lord is the one who ultimately determines whether we know something or not. That's why he says, following it up, the honor of a king is to search out a matter. Because to man, it's a great thing to try and discover or find something out. But to God, he's the one who knows everything, and he's the one who conceals a matter, right? The heaven for height and the earth for depth, and the heart of kings is unsearchable. So things you'll never be able to truly know, right? Like the heaven for height. You'll never be able to measure the heaven, which if you don't, the Bible is just up, right? You you can't really measure the sky, right? You can't, and it's for us especially, people will talk about things like the ozone layer. Well, sure, but heaven goes past that. Can you measure space? No, you can't. The same way, the earth for depth, although we're able to with some calculations try and find the depth of the earth, no one's ever even made it. We know this for certain. No one's made it past the first 10% of what we call the Earth's crust, because it's just so far down. We just cannot dig that far down. We simply can't. And the heart of kings is unsearchable, and no matter what we do, we can't read the minds of people. There's just things that we just can't really do, right? All to the point the Lord conceals a thing. No matter how hard we try, we can't measure space, right? We can't dig all the way down to the core of the earth. Take away the dross from the silver, and there shall come forth a vessel for the finder. Dross is basically the bad bits from silver. So whenever they would refine silver, there would be this film that would fall off of it. Whenever they would burn it in the fire and refine it, there would be sort of this, I guess you call this guck or muck that would fall off of it as the dross. So basically, going through, you can sort of see it as going through bad things, going through trials, makes you stronger, right? In the same way the Bible says the trying of your faith worketh patience, right? Through that trying of your faith, through those trials, you grow to be better at the end of it. The same way when you try silver in the fire, the dross falls off and it's better at the end of it, right? Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness. Put not forth thyself in the presence of the king, and stand not in the place of great men. For better it is that be said unto thee, Come up hither, than that thou shouldst be put lower in the presence of the prince whom thine eyes have seen. This is even something that Jesus talks about, where don't put yourself at a wedding. He tells it the same way in sort of a parable. At a wedding, don't sit in the firstmost seats. Sit in the back. Because if you sit in the firstmost seat, the bridegroom or like just the groom of the wedding will come up and be like, hey dude, these seats here are meant for like the father of the bride. They're like really close family, so I'm going to need you to sit back. But, so like you're humbled, right? But if you were to sit in the back, the groom is going to come to you and be like, hey dude, why are you sitting all the way towards the back? Dude, come up closer. Like, come sit here in one of these middle seats or closer to the front. You're my friend. I don't want you sitting all the way towards the back. Like, you're not a stranger to me, dude. Come sit up here. And it's literally saying the same thing here, but just a different parable in the sense of sitting before kings. All to the point, don't ever put yourself first. And I mean in the sense of, like, pride. Or even, like, not what this is talking about, but it's also good not to be selfish, but to the point. Don't put yourself first in like pride, or like don't set yourself up above others. Abase yourself, as the Lord says in Matthew. Abase yourself, and the Lord will exalt you in due time. Right, where we should never be the ones to uplift ourselves, but we should allow the Lord and others to uplift us. Because if we uplift ourselves, the only way to go is down. Go not forth hastily to strive, lest thou know not what to do in the end thereof when thy neighbor hath put thee to shame. So even here's talking about arguments, and this also can go with pride, because only by pride comes contention, right? Which is like the same as strife. But he's like, don't be quick to go to strife, because you won't know what to do when your neighbor puts you to shame. In other words, don't start contentions, arguments, problems with people without really considering the matter first. Like, don't get mad at someone and accuse them of something because they prove you wrong, and now you look like an idiot. And now you don't know what to do because now you look like an idiot, when if you have taken the time to search out the matter, whether it's self-examining or just looking at the facts of the situation, you probably wouldn't have reacted that way or wouldn't have caused that strife in the first place. So basically, just if you're upset, take a breather. Rationally look at what's before you, whether it's someone said something against you or whether it's a situation, whatever it may be. Take a beat. Don't immediately allow yourself to react to the situation. Take a beat, examine everything, let everything soak in, and then consider the matter and then respond. 9. Debate thy cause with thy neighbor himself, and discover not a secret to another. If you have a problem with someone, something that the New Testament also talks about, don't go and backbite and talk about it with other people or talk about that person behind their back. If you have an issue with someone, go to them directly. Like it says, with thy neighbor himself. Go to him about the problem you have. Don't start talking to everyone else like, I have this issue with so-and-so, and you never talk to them. No, that's not the way to handle things. Talk to them and haggle, deal with the matter with them. As he puts it, debate thy cause. Lest he that heareth it put thee to shame, and thy infamy turn that way. Because it's only going to end poorly if you don't do it. Because they're going to hear about it now, you've been talking behind my back about me. When really could have been as simple as you have a conversation with them, and realistically, whatever beef or whatever ends up happening could have been squashed in that moment. Right? So there's a proper order in dealing with these things. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. Like, we talked a lot about the tongue. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. The same, like, if you speak a good word, like he says, it's like apples of gold and the pictures of silver. It's like, it's better than a beautiful pictures of a beautiful picture of gold and silver apples. Like, it's basically a great treasure. As an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold, so is a wise reprover upon an obedient ear. It's good when people give good advice, good for proof, rebuke, and the person is obedient to it. Because, we all do wrong. We all make mistakes. And it's good for us when we are corrected on the mistakes and we listen. For both people. It's good. It's an overall good. It's an overall positive. 13. As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him, for he refresheth the soul of his masters. Whoso boasteth himself of a false gift is like clouds and wind without rain. By long forbearing is a prince persuaded, and a soft tongue breaketh the bone. So even here, by long forbearing is a prince persuaded, and a soft tongue breaketh the bone. Where, again, back to that tongue, where this is Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turneth away wrath. It's easier to convince or talk to someone if you speak to them kindly and meekness and humility than if you were to do it the other way around. Right? So in everything, we should try to do it in humility. And then even just the long forbearing means just like a parable that Jesus tells, again, is if like you have a friend asks like someone for, like if a friend asks, like friend A asks friend B for bread, right? And like he says no. If friend A asks him repeatedly over and over and over again, friend B will give it to him. Not because he cared more about his friend eating bread than the fifth time he asked it in comparison to the first. No, it's because he keeps bugging him. So because he keeps bugging him, he's going to give it to him. So in the same way, by long forbearing. And that also comes to the point back of patience, right? Where we're not always, whatever things we want, and even sometimes things we need, we're not always going to immediately get them the first time we ask. Does that mean we stop asking? Does that mean we stop praying? Does that mean we stop caring? No. Because the thing is, if it's within the Lord's will to give it to you, He will. But that does not mean He will give it to you the first time that you ask of it. A great example of which is in the book of Daniel, he prayed to the Lord about answering a prophecy, like a vision he had. And I believe it was 40 days he had fasted or something of the sort in order to, and the whole time trying to get this answer from the Lord. And it took that time for him to get that answer. And even when Gabriel, the angel, because Gabriel came to give him the answer he was looking for, Gabriel told him, hey, I heard, the Lord heard you the first time you asked of it, and He sent me, but basically I got held up by Satan in the meantime. But now, I'm able to come and, answer your question. But what would have happened if Daniel had given up after, let's say, after the first 20 days and he didn't keep going? Or what if he just gave up after he asked the question the first time? Gabriel may not have come. So to the point, it's patience, right? In all things, humility, meekness, and patience. 16. Hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomit it. So basically, don't be greedy. Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be weary of thee, and so hate thee. A man that beareth false witness against his neighbor is a maul, and a sword, and a sharp arrow. Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a broken tooth and foot out of joint. As he that taketh away a garment in cold weather, and as vinegar upon nitre, so is he that singeth songs to an heavy heart. If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. For thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee. The north wind driveth away rain, so doth an angry countenance a backbiting tongue. It is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. Again, people don't like dealing with strife. We talked about this before. There are a few repeats of this throughout the book of Proverbs. But no one likes dealing with strife. Here's an example. It's like a brawling woman, right? But even if it was a brawling man, obviously, it's the same thing. No one wants to deal with contention. No one wants to deal with strife. So you don't want to be that brawling woman or that brawling man in this example, right? As cold waters to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. A righteous man falling down before the wicked is as a troubled fountain and a corrupt spring, like it should not be. It is not good to eat much honey, so for men to search their own glory is not glory. And this is going back to the honey example again. It's not good to eat and just fill yourself on honey because you'll make yourself sick. So it's also not good for a man to seek his own glory, going back to the pride thing, right? We shouldn't be trying to be higher than everyone else. In life, we should never even look at things as a competition in terms of, well, I need to be better than him, or I am better than him, so on and so forth, right? As Christ said, we're servants, right? Christ came to be a servant and was a servant to all, right? Even remember Christ washing the feet of the apostles and Peter, right? Christ came to be a servant, and as Paul even talks about, as Christ was a servant, we are also to be likewise. Like, how do we think we should behave if Christ, who is God, right, the Son of God, right, the Word of God, as they call it in John 1, right, and also like the God of the Old Testament, if you don't know who he was, you could read that from like John 1 as well as Hebrews 1. Then, if he's God and he made himself a servant, and we are supposed to be servants to him, well, then what are we supposed to be? If not anything else, we're supposed to be servants, right? So we shouldn't be working to try and get our own glory, to be above others. We should be humbling ourselves and putting ourselves, again, to the point, not putting yourself in the highest seat, but putting yourself in the lowest. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. And that's talking about temperance. We all need to have a level of self-control. And that goes back to the point of verse 8, where you don't just react on impulse. You control yourself. You control your emotions. And you stop, you take a break, and you think. Right? But yeah, that's Proverbs 25. Probably spent a little more time on it than I should have. But Proverbs 25 is a great chapter. It talks about, like, again, like, it's a proverb, right? So it's wisdom. It talks so much. There's so many good things here. But a lot of it, I think one of the biggest takeaways here is, again, in many ways it's going to be, and many times it's going to be, pride and humility, right? Don't make yourself, because sometimes people like to think of like being proud is like you have to, like billionaire pride, where like you don't view people as people anymore. It was like, that is pride. Don't get it twisted. That's a really, really bad sense of pride. But in order to be considered proud, or even for pride to just be an issue, right, in general, and you serving the Lord, and just you being a good person, it doesn't even have to reach anywhere near that point. So it's always, so like examples like this in like Proverbs 25 are always good to look at, because these are things like, and like I'm not even trying to harp on people, because I mean, I've done these kinds of things more times than I can count, whether intentionally or not, more often than not, unintentionally and unknowingly, right? We can put ourselves before others, and we can put ourselves in the higher seat. And higher doesn't even mean the highest. That's not even what I'm talking about. But in the higher, putting ourselves in the higher rather than the lower, right? Not abasing ourselves in all the ways that we can, right? Where just where we don't always act in the complete humility in which we can, right? That's what I mean, like, where it's not fault. We all have things we need to work on, but that's a point that it is something we need to work on. It's not something we can just sweep under the carpet and ignore because we think it's not that bad. Well, ultimately, it can be. And Saul, like, although he's dead now, if you've been reading along with us in 1 Samuel, which I'm going to go to start flipping in 2 Samuel, that was pretty much Saul's greatest issue. He had pride and rebellion, because that's what really rebellion comes from, a sense of pride, that whenever he was told something that the Lord said, hey, do this, he would do it, he would kind of do it, but not in the way that the Lord specified. Because he thought, oh, but if I do it this way, it'll be even better. But ultimately, the Lord told you what he wanted you to do. But you thought there was a better way. So you tried to, and that was due to his pride. So in the same way, we need to be careful to not fall into those patterns. But with that being said, that's Proverbs 25. And now I think we can pick it up with chapter 1 for 2 Samuel 1. Yeah. Without further ado, 2 Samuel 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had abode 2 days at Ziklag. So, I forgot to mention, while the Philistines were fighting David, were fighting Saul, and ended up killing Saul and his son, David was returning back to his home in Ziklag, but the Amalekites had taken his wives, had taken his stuff, and it wasn't just David, it was David and all his men. So it was a company of people, right? With David being the leader, right? So while they were gone, because they had discussed with the Philistines because the Philistines were going up to fight against Saul, and they were debating whether to have David fight with the Philistines, but the Philistine generals and princes were like, no, he used to fight with Saul. We're worried he's going to switch over to their side if we start winning. So the king's like, all right, David, just go back to your land in Ziklag, and you'll just stay there while we fight. So when he went back to Ziklag, the Amalekites had attacked, stolen his wives, stolen everyone's wives, stolen their money, stolen all their stuff. So they fought the Amalekites and took everything back. So now they're returning from that battle, but the other Philistines have won their battle against Saul, so now Saul is dead. So now David's coming back to his land Ziklag, and he stayed there for a bit. Verse 2, and it came even to pass on the 3rd day, that behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul with his clothes rent, and earth upon his head. So now this dude's coming from that battle the Philistines fought against Israel. Rent and earth upon his head. And so it was when he came to David that he fell to the earth, and did obeisance. So he's bowing before David. And David said unto him, from whence comest thou? He said unto him, out of the camp of Israel am I escaped. And David said unto him, how went the matter? I pray thee, tell me. So he's I came from the battle. David said, what happened? I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, that the people are fled from the battle, and many of the people are fallen and dead. And Saul and Jonathan, his son, are dead also. He's we lost. Saul and Jonathan are dead. Everyone else is dead too. And David said unto the young man that told him, how knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan, his son, be dead? He said, how do you know they died? Right? Because this is a battle, right? So sometimes just because someone didn't see someone, we're all running, and we meet back up after we ran. I see you and you, and it's X isn't here, so is X dead? So we assume X is dead. So he's asking how do you know that he actually died in the battle? Because he could have just ran somewhere, but how do you know they died? 6. And the young man that told him said, as I happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, behold, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind him, and he saw me, and called unto me, and I answered, here am I. And he said to me, who art thou? And I answered him, I am an Amalekite. So he's replaying some of what happened, but we'll see. He's not completely honest about how things actually happened and what went down. And he said unto me again, stand, I pray thee, upon me, and slay me, for anguish has come upon me, because my life is yet whole in me. So he's hey, I don't want to die to them. You kill me. You kill me now. Let me double check. Yep. What happened was, this did happen, but Saul was not talking to this young man that is speaking to David right now. Saul said all of this to his armor bearer and said, hey, kill me. But the armor bearer refused. So Saul killed himself. And when that happened, when the armor bearer saw Saul killed himself, the armor bearer killed himself. So this guy's lying already about Saul speaking to him and saying all this. The guy witnessed all of this, but Saul didn't tell him to kill him. Saul didn't tell him any of this. So he's lying about just how things really played out, right? So I stood upon him and slew him. So he's lying and even saying further that he's the one who killed Saul, when really no one killed Saul rather than himself, right? Because I was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen. And I took the crown that was upon his head and the bracelet that was on his arm and brought them hither unto my Lord. That's true. He did take up the bracelet and the crown from off of Saul's dead body, but he didn't do, you can read 1 Samuel 31. He didn't do any of it. He didn't kill Saul, and Saul didn't even ask him specifically to kill him. He asked his armor bearer. Then David took hold of his clothes and rent them, and likewise all the men that were with him. So, well, as for why this guy told this lie and something of like the specifics, I can't specifically say because the book doesn't say. Now, what it would appear to be is because Saul, if you remember, Saul was hunting and trying to kill David. They had beef. So this guy very likely just thought, hey, I'm giving the crown of this dead king that had beef with this guy who's going to be the next king. Like, I'm going to give the crown to him and I'm going to say I killed Saul, who what in his mind was your enemy. Right? Because, like, you know, he doesn't know the actual dynamic. He's an outside observer, right? So he doesn't really know that David still has a lot of love for Saul. That David really David doesn't really view Saul as an enemy. He still views him like an uncle. So when he hears about all this, David just breaks down, like, sad, right? He, like, rents his clothes, which is like what they did when they were mourning. Yeah, and they mourned and wept and fasted until even for Saul and Jonathan his son. And they cried for the people of the Lord, for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword. So, like, David loved Saul. So again, I can't say a specific reason, it doesn't say, but it appears like he was trying to look for some reward from David for supposedly killing who he thought would be David's enemy. But no, David is sad because he considered Saul family. He literally was his father-in-law. And David said unto the young man that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger and Amalekite. And David said unto him, How wast thou not afraid to stretch forth thine hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? So it's like, how could you do it? How could you kill the Lord's anointed, which is like the king? That the king was the Lord's anointed. So it's, how could you, being a stranger, like you're not even like of this land, feel comfortable killing the king? How do you even think that's okay in any way? And David called one of the young men and said, Go near and fall upon him. And he smote him down, he died. So David's just like, Get this dude out of my sight, go kill him. And like one of his dudes just went and killed the dude. Because, I mean, like, I'm sure he wasn't expecting that to happen, right? But because, like, David considered Saul family. Like, he loved Saul. And that's why even, like, if you go back, he had opportunities to kill Saul when Saul was trying to kill him, but he never did. Because Saul was A, the king, and the Lord's anointed, and B, he still had a lot of love for Saul. So he's just like, how could you? Like, how could you even consider, let alone actually do that? And David said unto him, Thy blood be upon thy head, for thy mouth hath testified against thee, saying, I have slain the Lord's anointed. Right? Where, like, we know you really didn't do it, but here's the thing. You, like David says, thy blood is on your head because you told me that you did. That, like, the words of your own mouth spoke against you, saying that you killed the Lord's anointed. So you're dying because of what you said. Whether David really, like, knew somehow that he was lying, that doesn't even necessarily appear to be the case, but to the point, all because the dude lied, the dude ended up dead. Because he said, I've slain the Lord's anointed. And David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Israel is slain upon thine high places. How are the mighty fallen? Tell it not in Gad, publish it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. So he's like, hey, like, we've lost some good ones today. Don't let people know about it, because they're going to rejoice, like, you know, they're going to dance on his grave. It's like, I would hate to see it. Ye mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor fields of offerings. For there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away, the shield of Saul, as though he had not been anointed with oil. For the blood of the slain from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back, and the sword of Saul returned not empty. It's like they were fighters until the end. Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death, they were not divided. They even died together. They fought together. They even died together. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. Ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet, with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel. How are the mighty fallen in the midst of the battle? O Jonathan, thou was slain in thine high places. I am distressed for thee, my brother Jonathan. Because remember, Jonathan and David, they may have come together. They were like this. They were locked up. They were close. They were brothers. You consider when the book says there was a friend that stayed closer than a brother. That was what Jonathan and David were. They were close like this. So he's really mourning the death of his brother here. Very pleasant hast thou been unto me. Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. Like I love you more than I love my wife. That's just how close. That's how close they were. They were, like I said, they were that close. How are the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perish? And that's chapter 1. Yeah. Again, all really speaking to how important and how vital humility is. I think that chapter is a really good sign. Humility, kindness, meekness. Because anyone else in David's situation probably would rejoice. The guy who's tried to kill you is dead. Right? Like Jonathan, we probably get. Like Jonathan was his best friend. But Saul tried to kill him so many times. He had to get lowered out of windows in a basket because of Saul. Right? So a normal person, like a normal person would, peace Jennifer, would probably be relieved, be happy even. Because David also knows he's meant to be the next king. So with Saul dead, he's going to be the next king now. Right? But no, he's coming from a place of humility and charity and love. Like, no, this is a bad day for Israel as a whole because our king is dead. It's a bad day for me because my uncle Saul is dead. And it's a bad day because this Amalekite thought he could kill the Lord's anointed and it would just all be sweet. It'll all be peachy. Right? So it's really just one of those things where when they talk about David being a man after God's own heart, you really see it here. David was that. He had that humility. He had that love where even when his enemy died, that had nothing to do, because even said before, I can't get vengeance. The Lord must be the one to get vengeance, right? Even when everything, none of this is his fault in any way. The vengeance was played out by the Lord independently of him. He still feels like, man, it sucks this happened. All just from a place of mercy, forgiveness, love, humility, just all of those things. But yeah. So with that, now we can go on to chapter 2. 2 Samuel 2, verse 1. And it came to pass after this, so after all this played out, that David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah? So now, he's been in Ziklag because he was hiding from Saul. He was getting away. But now, Saul is dead. No one's hunting for his life. So he can just go back home. So he's inquiring of the Lord, can I go back home? Can I go back into any of the cities of Judah? And the Lord said to him, go up. And David said, whither shall I go up? So where shall I go? And he said, unto Hebron. So David went thither, and his 2 wives also, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, Nabal's wife, the Carmelite. If you don't know the story, Abigail was married to this wicked guy named Nabal. Nabal did David dirty, so the Lord killed Nabal. And then after Nabal died, the Lord married Abigail. Right, so that's why it says Abigail, Nabal's wife, the Carmelite. He didn't steal the man's wife. He married the man's wife after the dude died. So Abigail is a widow, in other words. And his men that were with him did David bring up, every man with his household, and they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. And the men of Judah came And there they anointed David king over the house of Judah, and they told David, saying that the men of Jabesh Gilead were they that buried Saul. Because what happened was, just to answer the men of Jabesh Gilead were they that buried Saul. After Saul died, the Philistines took his body, and I believe they cut. This is all in the last chapter of 1 Samuel. They cut off his head and his hands, and they hung his body up, on a wall. And the men of Jabesh Gilead, they saw this, and then they took Saul's body, and then they buried it. So they did the respectful thing of our king's body is not going to just be hung up here on a wall. We're going to give him a respectful resting place. So they took the body down, and they went and they buried it. But now David has been made the king of the house of Judah, of the tribe of Judah. So now, in the southern lands, as of right now, David is the king over the men of Judah. And David sent messengers unto the men of Jabesh Gilead, and said to them, Blessed be ye of the Lord, that ye have showed this kindness unto your Lord, even unto Saul, and have buried him. So David commends them, hey, you did a good thing by burying Saul. And now the Lord show kindness and truth unto you, and I also will requite you this kindness, because ye have done this thing. Therefore now let your hands be strengthened, and be ye valiant, for your master Saul is dead, and also the house of Judah hath anointed me king over them. So he's hey, and I will even repay back to you the goodness you've done in burying Saul, because it was a righteous and good thing that you did. But Abner, the son of Ner, captain of Saul's host, so he's his general, or was Saul's general, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim. So now he's taken the king, one of Saul's other sons, Ishbosheth, and made him king over Gilead, and over the Asherites, and over Jezreel, and over Ephraim, and over Benjamin, and over all Israel. But now he's taken Ishbosheth, and has made him king over a lot of the rest of Israel, closer the northern parts, right? Now remember, the Lord is the one who anoints and chooses the king. And the Lord anointed David. So David is really supposed to be king, but they don't really want, some people don't want David to be king. Here with Abner, so he's saying of Ishbosheth, right? And Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and reigned 2 years, but the house of Judah followed David. So he reigned in Israel, but only for 2 years. But the house of Judah, southern people and the tribe of Judah, followed David. And the time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. Because we'll see later he ends up moving where he was as king. You can think of it like a capital, right? Because you can tell by the fact that it says this Ishbosheth guy only reigned for 2 years, that David ends up overtaking the rest of Israel from him. And we'll see how that plays out. But he reigned in Hebron as his capital for those 7 years. And then he ends up moving somewhere else and makes that the capital. But we'll see all that play out later. So verse 12. And Abner the son of Ner, the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. And Joab the son of Zeruiah and the servants of David went out and met together by the pool of Gideon. So now Joab is the general for David. He's David's right hand man, his general. So now David's men and Ishbosheth's men, they're meeting together at the pool of Gibeon, near this bank of water. And they sat down, the one on the one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. And Abner said to Joab, Let the young men now arise and play before us. And Joab said, Let them arise. So he's basically saying, let's let our two armies fight. And they did. Then there arose and went over the number 12 of Benjamin, which pertained to Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 of the servants of David. So basically they see each other, and they're let's fight. So they send the 12 men, they're fighting against each other. And they caught everyone his fellow by the head, and thrust his sword in his fellow's side, so they fell down together. Wherefore that place was called Helkath Hazarim, which is in Gibeon. So they just all basically just killed, the 12 men just killed each other. So now there's all 24 of them, 12 from each side, are just dead here. And there was a very sore battle that day. And Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel before the servants of David. So now, but the servants of Joab, like Joab and his people, ended up beating up Abner and his people. And there were 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. And Asahel was as light of foot as a wild roe. So Joab's 2 brothers were also there, Abishai and Asahel. And Asahel pursued after Abner, and in going he turned not to the right hand nor to the left from following Abner. So Asahel's chasing Abner right from this battle. Then Abner looked behind him and said, Art thou Asahel? And he answered, I am. And Abner said to him, Turn thee aside to the right hand or to thy left, and lay thee hold on one of the young men, and take thee his armor. But Asahel will not turn aside from following of him. So Abner's like, hey, stop chasing me. Stop trying to get me. Go, turn to, get that dude over there. That dude's, go fight and try to kill one of these other dudes. Don't try to kill me. Right? 22. And Abner said again to Asahel, Turn thee aside from following me. But Asahel wasn't listening. So Abner's like, go. Don't come try and fight me. Wherefore should I smite thee to the ground? He said, why do you want me to kill you? I don't want to kill you. How then should I hold up my face to Joab thy brother? You're going to have Joab mad against me because I'm going to kill you. So he's warning him, don't try and fight me. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And then Joab's going to have issues with me. I don't want to have issues with Joab. So stop trying to fight me. Howbeit he refused to turn aside, but Asahel wasn't listening. Wherefore Abner with the hinder end of the spear smote him under the 5th rib. So Abner killed Asahel, stabbing him under his 5th rib. That the spear came out behind him, all the way through. And he fell down there and died in the same place. And it came to pass that as many as came to the place where Asahel fell down and died stood still. So now he's killed Asahel, but even the people that are all fighting, they get near Asahel and they all just look, they just stop fighting and just look and see just Asahel's dead. Joab also and Abishai pursued after Abner, and the sun went down when they were come to the hill of Ammon that lieth before Gaiah by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon. So Joab and Abishai, Asahel's other brother, ended up chasing Abner all the way up into the territory of Ishbosheth's land now, Israel. And the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner and became one troop and stood on the top of an hill. Then Abner called to Joab and said, Shall the sword devour forever? So, now, he's, back home territory. So him and all his people, the Benjamites, come in, defense of Abner. And so they're all, gathered up at the top of this hill. And Abner's like, hey, will the sword devour forever? You're, almost in the sense, you're still mad. There's, we'll just see. I'll keep reading it. Knowest thou not that it will be barrenness in the latter end? How long shall it be ere thou bid the people return from following their brethren? So he's like, dude, how long is this going to go on? You keep trying to chase and kill him. Let the people go back home. This needs to end. Because Joab's mad because he killed Asahel. But, dude is, Abner's dude. But how long is this strife, is this battle going to continue? We got to, stop it here. We got to stop it at some point. Because remember, Abner didn't even want to kill Asahel. Asahel was literally chasing Abner for, forever. And Abner warned him multiple times, stop chasing me, stop trying to fight me, because I'm going to kill you. Stop. But Asahel wouldn't listen. So Abner legitimately didn't want any of this to happen. Asahel literally forced his hand. So he's like, dude, there's got to be some way we can end this fighting. 27. And Joab said, As God liveth, unless thou hast spoken, surely then in the morning the people had gone up every one from following his brother. So he said, if you wouldn't have said anything, then essentially what you wanted, the fighting to stop, if you hadn't said that, then that would have been the case. So Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still and pursued after Israel no more, neither fought they anymore. So like now, like the fight has ended, and Abner and his men walked all that night through the plain and passed over Jordan and went through all Bithram, and they came to Mahanaim. And Joab returned from following Abner, and when he gathered all the people together, there lacked of David's servants 19 men in Asahel. But the servants of David had smitten of Benjamin and of Abner's men, so that 303 score men died. So 20 men of David's men died, but 360 men from Abner's side died. So like they completely won the exchange in terms of just how many people lived and died. And they took up Asahel and buried him in the sepulchre of his father, which was in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at break of day. Yeah. So here, just like at this point, David's now king in Judah. Ishbosheth is king in like sort of the northern, like it just Israel, like pretty much everyone else. And we'll even see that this specific battle comes back to play. So even what Joab said to Abner, like, hey, basically saying, like, I won't forget this. I won't forget what you said. I won't forget this. We'll see Joab never really lets this go. He never really lets go what happened with Abner and Asahel. Like, he remembers it. It's like, he stops fighting him and he stops chasing after him. So, like, I guess you could say it sort of goes in, like, the back of his mind. But it never leaves his mind. And we'll see that he never really gets over what happens here with Asahel and Abner. But yeah, so now like we've had some skirmishes and so on and so forth. But yeah, so at this point now, there are like sort of two kings in Israel, you could say. David and Ishbosheth. All right. So now, 2 Samuel 3 and verse 1. Now there was long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. So as we saw before, David's men, only 20 died, but on the other side, 360 did. Like, they keep having these fights because that was just like one skirmish that ended. Because basically that battle just dragged on and on for days because they kept chasing them to keep fighting them instead of letting them retreat and get away. They kept chasing them. So they've had other battles besides that, right? It's just that battle officially ended after days because they kept chasing. But, so they've had many more fights, but David and his people just keep growing and growing stronger while Ishbosheth just keeps getting weaker and weaker. And unto David were sons born in Hebron, and his firstborn was Amnon and of Ahinoam the Jezreelitess. And his second, Chileab of Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And the third, Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. And the fourth, Adonijah, the son of Haggith. And the fifth, Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And the sixth, Ithream by Eglah, David's wife. These were born to David in Hebron. And it came to pass, while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner made himself stronger for the house of Saul. So Abner basically just, while all this war has been going on, Abner's been putting in the effort to grow stronger and to grow his army for the sake of the house of Saul, right? And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine? So, remember, Saul is dead. A concubine, if you don't know, is just a wife. It is a wife, but it's like a lower status. Don't think of it as like a second wife. It is a servant. It is a servant that someone married, right? So that's what a concubine is specifically. Is a servant that someone married. You can think of it as, well, that's literally what it is. It's just a servant that someone married. But remember, at this point, Saul is dead. So she's a widow. So she really can get remarried. Like, not even really can. She can. She can't get remarried. That's all there is to it. She's a widow, so she can get remarried. But Abner has remarried one of Saul's widows, right? And Ishbosheth is like, why hast thou gone into my father's concubine? What's your issue? Now you've married my wife, not my wife, my father's wife, right? My father's widow. Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Ishbosheth. So, and then Abner gets really upset and said, "Am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father, to his brethren, to his friends, and have not delivered thee into the hand of David, that thou chargest me today with a fault concerning this woman?" He's like, dude, I have fought against David over in that I've protected you from the house of David. Like, basically, I have been an incredible servant to you. Because remember, Abner was the one who grabbed Ishbosheth and made him king before the rest of Israel. Remember, he was the one who did that. So, I have been loyal. I have served in everything the entire time I've defended you and fought against the house of David. And they just go stronger and stronger and weaker and weaker. But I've made myself stronger so we can fight against them. Because they basically think of Abner as their guy that's keeping them safe from, well, not even necessarily keeping them safe, because it's not like Judah, it's just ransacking their villages. But he's their main force that's capable of fighting against is Judah or David, right? So he's like, what am I? What am I? A dog that you have charged me today with a fault concerning this woman? What am I to you that you just have insulted me and are berating me about the fact that I married this widow? Basically he's in disbelief and upset that he's being treated this way after all of the work and all that he's done for Ishbosheth, really. So do God to Abner and more also, except as the Lord has sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah from Dan even to Beersheba. And he could not answer Abner a word again because he feared him. So, and Abner's shoot. Look, you basically forget it. I'm going to help. You know what? Because you said that, I'm going to help make, basically, I help set you up to be king over Israel. I'm going to make David the king over all of Judah and all Israel. He's going to be the ruler of all of this land. Because you said that. And Ishbosheth couldn't even say anything against Abner. Because, it says, because he feared Abner. Because he feared him. Because Abner was strong. He was a strong general. He was really the guy with all the power in this whole system. But he was being a good servant to Ishbosheth, so it was never an issue up to this point. But Ishbosheth just pushed his luck a bit too far. And how he was treating Abner. 12. And Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf, saying, "Who is the land?" Saying also, "Make thy league with me, and behold, my hand shall be with thee to bring about all Israel unto thee." So he sends a letter to David saying the same thing, hey, if you'll have me, make your league with me, I will make you ruler over all of Israel. I will help make this happen. Because really, that's how it's supposed to be. Remember, David was the one anointed. It was Saul anointed, and then David. So really, the kingdom has really always been supposed to be David's. But now it's we're making things right. I'm going to make the kingdom yours. I'm going to give it to you. And he said, "Well, I will make a league with thee, but one thing I require of thee, that thou shalt not see my face, except thou first bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when thou comest to see my face." So he's okay, cool. But I only have one request. I don't want you to come up here and we'll talk person to person. I don't want to do that until you bring me Saul's daughter, Michal. Because Michal was David's wife. But remember, Saul and all his wickedness took her from David and tried to give her to another dude. So he's I want my wife back. Give me, my wife, I want my wife back. Get her back. And I'm more than happy to see. That's my only request. And David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, Saul's son, saying, "Deliver me my wife Michal, which I espoused to me for 100 foreskins of the Philistines." So he's been talking to Ishbosheth hey, give me my wife back. And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, even from Phaltiel, the son of Laish. And her husband went with her along, weeping behind her to Bahurim. Then said Abner unto him, "Go, return." And he returned. So even he took her from the dude that she was with now. Because really that was never supposed to be. Like I said, she was married to David. He took her from David and gave her to this dude. Never should have been, right? So now, but like he's real, Faltiel is the dude's name, was real sad about the predicament. It was even following after her. But Abner was like, hey dude, go back home. Like stop following her. Like she's not your wife. And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel, saying, "Ye sought for David in times past to be king over you. Now then do it. For the Lord has spoken of David, saying, By the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel out of the hand of the Philistines and out of the hand of all their armies." So now Abner is basically talking to Israel too, being like, hey, make David your king. Like you've wanted in times past, because during the reign of Saul, they wanted David to be their king. They said that more than a few times. One of the things that drove Saul to be more jealous and envious, right? But it's like, you guys did want David to be your king. Now he can be your king. And the Lord's even said that he will deliver you out of the hands of the Philistines. So make him your king. Ditch this Ishbosheth guy. And Abner also spake in the ear of Benjamin, and Abner went also to speak in the ears of David in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel. And that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin. So Abner is basically doing PR for David throughout all the land of Israel, just being like, hey, make David your king, make David your king. So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him, and David made Abner the men that were with him a feast. So now Abner has come up, and David made a celebration for him. And Abner said to David, I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel unto my lord the king, that they may make a league with thee, and that thou mayest reign over all that thine heart desireth. And David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. And behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop, and brought in a great spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace. So now Joab, he's come back from a battle that he fought. But at this point, David and Abner aren't together. When Joab and all the hosts that was with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he has sent him away, and he is gone in peace. And they told him, like, hey, dude, Abner was just here. Because remember, Joab never really forgot about what happened. So he's still got beef with Abner. Then Joab came to the king and said, What hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away, and he is quite gone? So Joab said, wait, Abner was here. Why did you send him away? Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. So he has beef with Abner. He still has beef with Abner. So he's like, dude, like, he's wicked. He's a wicked man. He just only comes here because he's trying to deceive you. And he's trying to, he's trying to know that going out and that coming, he's coming to spy on you. He's coming to, like, basically say he's trying to come, he's lying to you. Because remember, this is all coming from a place of Joab. We know this is genuine. Because Abner's mad at Ishbosheth, so he's just switching sides. But remember, Joab's flawed perspective. He's mad. He's mad at Abner. And when Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah, but David knew him not. So Joab even sent messengers to bring Abner back without even telling David. And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly. So Joab takes Abner to sort of a secret place and smote him there under the 5th rib, and stabbed him under the 5th rib, which, if you remember, is exactly where Abner stabbed Asahel. So all of this is going back to what happened with Asahel at that darn battle. Joab never forgot, and Joab was still angry. They smote him under the 5th rib, that he died for the blood of Asahel, his brother. He never forgot about it. And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever, from the blood of Abner the son of Ner. And David's like, hey, this sin is not in my hands. It's not my fault. We are guiltless. We bear no guilt for what happened. Lest it rest on the head of Joab and all his father's house, and let there not fail from the house of Joab one that hath an issue. So he's like, hey, this sin, this blood is on Joab, and his family's hands. This is have nothing, let them be accursed because of what happened here. Don't let us be punished because of him. He let him and his house be punished. Let there not fail from the house of Joab one that hath an issue, or that is a leper, or that leaneth on a staff, or that falls on the sword, or that lacketh a beard. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, slew Abner, because he had slain their brother Asahel at Gibeon in the battle. So even Joab and his brother Abishai worked together to make this happen. And David said to Joab and to all the people that were with him, Rend your clothes and gird you with sackcloth and mourn before Abner. And King David himself followed the bier, which is bier. You can think of it like the almost like a casket, right? To go like bury the dead. So let's say, hey, mourn, a good man died today. Because Abner died. Because just Abner, like, he didn't do, like, he died. That was a battle that was fought in while we were at war. He switched sides. We shouldn't kill him because of it. B, also, he literally begged Asahel not to fight him. And then Asahel did it anyway. So, like, there's no reason for you to have done any of this. There's literally, it's all just out of your anger, pride, and lack of forgiveness. And they buried Abner in Hebron, and the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented over Abner and said, Died Abner as a fool died? Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put into fetters. As a man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou. So he's like, you died. You weren't bound, and your feet weren't put. So basically, you were caught by surprise. You died as a man falleth before wicked men, so fellest thou. So you were caught by surprise. You were brought in by a dude you thought you could trust, but he killed you in secret. This wasn't like we're at war. This is an open fight. He took you in secret to a secret place, acting like you could trust him, like you were friends now, and then killed you secretly. So you fell as though someone who fell before wicked men. So fellest thou, and all the people wept over him. And when all the people came to cause David to eat meat while it was yet day, David sware, saying, So do God to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else, till the sun be down. And he basically fasted. Well, not like a true fast, but he's just like, I'm not going to eat anything until like the sun is down, because like a good man died. And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatsoever the king did pleased all the people, because David was righteous. For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it was not the king to slay Abner and something. Because they understood this was not, like, with him acting this way too. They understood, so he wasn't part of Abner being killed. Like, this wasn't something he tried to do. He was not part of this at all. Like, he's genuinely distraught that Abner is dead. And the king said unto his servants, Know ye not that there is a prince and a great man fallen this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king. And these men, the sons of Zeruiah, be too hard for me. That's Joab and his brothers. The Lord shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. And we'll see much later that ends up being the case for Joab. But yeah, that's 2 Samuel 3. Very good chapter. I think this is also a good chapter showing where like a lack of forgiveness can get you. And like, here's the thing. It's not that I don't get where Joab is coming from. Where like, he killed your brother. Yeah, even if your brother was trying to kill him, and the guy really did it in self-defense, he still killed your brother. There is that emotional aspect in our minds that's going to just never be able to reconcile that. That's never gonna, that like at least how we think, is like never gonna, I'm never gonna be able to forgive him. Like, I hate that guy. I can't believe he did so on and so forth. Right? But that's exactly what we shouldn't do. Even though we see it and it's like, yeah, I understand it. Oh yeah, like there's a rationale to it. And like, yeah, it's just that emotion. Yeah, all those things can be true. But emotion causes, we can't allow emotion to cause us to sin. And we most certainly cannot allow emotion to be an excuse to sin, or an excuse for it to be okay. Because it's really not. Like I said, I've already said, like, and David said here, the Lord reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness, which the Lord ends up doing to Joab, because he killed Abner unjustly. Because at this point, Abner posed no threat. There was no reason for you to kill him. If you wanted to do something about this, you could have taken it to the law, but you didn't, because there is like a code in the law about this, like basically standing trial, almost going before the judge to figure out like what happened and how this worked, right? But it's like, even then, there's a reason why you really didn't do that, because you knew, like, It was self-defense. Asahel literally was trying to kill that man, and he literally begged him, stop chasing me, stop trying to fight me, I don't want to kill you, stop, I don't want to kill you, stop, I don't want to kill you. And he kept chasing him, and then he killed him. There's no defense. There is no defense. Guy literally chasing, trying to kill me. I'm saying, stop, I'll kill you. And then I kill him. There is no real defense on the side of the guy who's trying to kill, on Asahel. There's no defense for him. So but again, that's all to the point. Rationally, we all know that, but it's the emotion. But the emotion does not give us any sway with the Lord. The Lord is still like, no, that's my judgment. That's the truth. That's wisdom. That's the rationale. And we have to be, as people, we have to work to not allow our emotions to cause us to sin or not act in a manner that is befitting a Christian or a servant of God. And that is being humble, righteous, and obeying the law, like not killing Abner, or forgiving, where he could, even if you truly felt he did wrong, you could have forgiven him, right? All of that. And I'm never saying, to the point, I'm never saying those things aren't difficult to do, but just because something is difficult to do does not mean there's ever an excuse not to do it, or at least not to make the attempt. Right? Because that is a pitfall that we can fall into, and I'm never going to endorse falling into that pitfall. It's hard. Serving the Lord can be hard, but that does not mean you don't do it. You make an attempt. A just man falls 7 times, but gets back up, while the wicked falls into, I think, iniquity is what it says in Proverbs. All to the point. Maybe it's transgression. I think it's iniquity, but to the point, same meaning, where you're righteous, you're going to make mistakes, but you get back up and you keep trying. But if you're wicked, you just do it and you just don't care. You just continue in wickedness without ever trying to serve the Lord. But, yeah. So that's 2 Samuel 3. With that, I think we are good to move on to 2 Samuel 4. All right. Verse 1. And when Saul's son heard that Abner was dead in Hebron, his hands were feeble, and all the Israelites were troubled. Because remember, Abner was like their main guy. So with Abner switching sides, that was bad, but also Abner's dead now. So it's not even like we can get him to switch back to being on our side. At this point, the dude's just, he's gone. He's dead, right? There is no reconciling that. And Saul's son had 2 men that were captains of bands. The name of the one was Bainan, the name of the other was Rechab, the sons of Rimmon, a Beerothite, of the children of Benjamin. For Beeroth also was reckoned to Benjamin, and the Beerothites fled to Gittaim and were sojourners there until this day. And Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son that was lame of his feet. So Jonathan, David's best friend, had a son. He was 5 years old when the tidings came of Saul and Jonathan out of Jezreel. So when Jonathan and Saul died, he was 5 years old. And his nurse took him up and fled, and it came to pass, as she made haste to flee, that he fell and became lame. So she picked him up whenever they're running, but she dropped him, and he became lame, which means he couldn't walk. And his name was Mephibosheth. And the sons of Rimmon, the Beerothite, Rechab and Baanah, went and came about the heat of the day to the house of Ishbosheth, who lay on the bed at noon. And they came thither into the midst of the house, as though they would have fetched wheat. And they smote him under the 5th rib, and Rechab and Baanah, his brother, escaped. So these were 2 men of Ishbosheth. Again, Ishbosheth, who didn't, have, affiliation with David at this point, went in and killed Ishbosheth. Okay, smiting him under that 5th rib. For when they came into the house, he lay on his bed in his bedchamber, and they smote him and slew him and beheaded him, and took his head and gat them away through the plain all night. And they brought the head of Ishbosheth unto David to Hebron, and said to the king, Behold, the head of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul thine enemy, which sought thy life. And the Lord hath avenged my lord the king this day of Saul and of his seed. And he's like, hey, so now these 2 dudes playing to David, they bring him the head of Ishbosheth. They're like, hey, the Lord hath avenged my lord the king this day of Saul and all his seed. We've avenged him. Like, we have avenged you of Saul. Because remember, Saul did David dirty, and of his seed, like of his house, because we brought you the head of your enemy Ishbosheth. And David answered Rechab and Baanah his brother, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, and said unto them, As the Lord liveth, who hath redeemed my soul out of all adversity, when one told me, saying, Behold, Saul is dead, thinking to have brought good tidings, I took hold of him and slew him in Ziklag, who thought that I would give him a reward for his tidings. He says that this reminds me of when Saul died. A guy came and told me about his death and that he died, thinking that I would give him some benefit. That's more or less confirmation of what we talked about earlier, right? That's the reasoning why, right? But thinking that I would be happy of what he said, right? Which also why he lied, right? So he thought that I would be happy about what he said, and I killed him, right? So 11. How much more, when wicked men have slain a righteous person in his own house upon his bed, shall I not therefore now require his blood of your hand and take you away from here? So he's like, well, if that's the case then, what do you think about now? How do you think I feel about two dudes walking up on a man, Ishbosheth? He calls him a righteous person. Because Ishbosheth wasn't supposed to be king, but they shouldn't have killed him in this way. Like he said, they came upon a dude in his house when he was in bed and then killed him, stabbed him under the fifth rib, and then beheaded him. So he's just if I had an issue with what happened with Saul and that dude who told me the times, how do you think I'm going to feel about this? It's no, I'm not okay with this. I'm going to need to avenge Ishbosheth's blood now. And David commanded his young men, and they slew them, and cut off their hands and their feet, and hanged them over the pool in Hebron. But they took the head of Ishbosheth and buried it in the sepulchre of Abner in Hebron. And they buried, peace to die, Israel, peace. And they buried the head of Ishbosheth, and they killed the men. And funny, they did the same thing with them that the Philistines did to Saul, cutting off the head and cutting off the hands and hanging him. But so now Ishbosheth is dead, and we'll read that David even ends up becoming the king over all the tribes of Israel from this point on. But this is, I think, it's a really good example of David talked about, I believe, chapter 25 in 1 Samuel, also chapter 24. He also says it in the story of Nabal and Abigail, if you remember what chapter that is. That may be chapter 23. We're at 23, 24, 25, those chapters of 1 Samuel. I believe he says it a few times. But to the point, he talks about how the Lord gets vengeance. The Lord is the one who avenges me, right? I cannot get vengeance of myself for myself, right? The Lord is the one who avenges me. And that's what happens here as well. With these two guys, I already forgot their names somehow. Rechab and Baanah, right? They weren't wrong when they said, the Lord has avenged you this day by killing Ishbosheth. They weren't really wrong, because Ishbosheth was supposed to be king. Ishbosheth needed to leave or die or some form in order for David to be made king, like the Lord promised him to, right? In the same way, the Lord had to get rid of Saul, for David to be king as well, but also because we got to witness firsthand all of the wickedness that Saul had done, and that the Lord had cursed Saul because of his wickedness and even put an evil spirit. We got to see that, and that was before a lot of the wickedness that we just get to read about. So we knew what happened with Saul and him dying was literally predestined by the Lord, and it happened because of the Lord, right? So both of them are examples of the Lord avenging David, right? And the thing is, the same thing will happen with us if we trust in the Lord, if we follow the Lord, and we don't avenge ourselves. The Lord will get vengeance for us. He will do these things for us. We don't need to do a single thing. We just need to trust in the Lord. because he will be the one to redeem us. Yeah. That being said, it's also a good example that the Lord uses whomsoever he will, and that, in this instance, he used Baana and Rechab to get rid of Ishbosheth, but they weren't really, as far as we can see, weren't really righteous people. To the point, the Lord uses wicked people in order to accomplish things that need to happen. Again, good example being the Philistines with Saul. Saul needed to die, so he used the Philistines to do it. Now, does that mean the Lord's cool with anything the Philistines do? No, but he used them in that instance to do something that he needed to get done. And we'll see that a lot more throughout the Bible. The Lord does good and creates evil. The Lord is the one in control of everything. Anything that you see happen in life is either something he's directly done or that he allows. Right? Whether that is for the purpose of punishing us, to try us and test us, whether it's really for our own benefit and we just haven't seen the end of the matter yet, something like Joseph, is remains to be seen. We won't know until really we can ask him, right? But all to the point, this is a really good example of that as well. But yeah, so with that, without further ado, we now can move on to chapter 5. 2 Samuel 5 and verse 1. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh. Now that the tribes are coming before him, hey, we're all Israelites, right? We're all of the same blood. Also in time past, when Saul was king over us, thou was he that led us out and brought us in Israel. The Lord said to thee, Thou shalt feed my people Israel, thou shalt be a captain over Israel. It's we remember the good times with Saul, where we considered you our leader. So all the others of Israel came to the king to Hebron. And King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. So now he's king over all of Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. That also includes the time where he was in Hebron. In Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months. In Jerusalem, he reigned 33 years over all Israel. And Judah, Jerusalem was that place that later became the capital. And the king and his men went to Jerusalem unto the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, which spake unto David, saying, Except thou take away the blind and the lame, thou shalt not come in hither. Thinking, David cannot come in hither. Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion. Zion's another name for Jerusalem. The same is the city of David. It's also called that. And David said on that day, Whosoever get up to the gutter, and smite the Jebusites, and the lame, and the blind, that are hated of David's soul, he shall be chief and captain. Wherefore they said, The blind and the lame shall not come into the house. So David dwelt in the fort, and called it the city of David. And David built round about from Milo and inward. And David went on and grew great, and the Lord God of hosts was with him. So he's taken the city of Jerusalem. And Hiram, the king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, and cedar trees and carpenters, and masons. And they built David an house. So now even we'll see, even he makes friends with a lot of kings. So even this king here helped David build a house. And David received that the Lord had established him king over Israel, and they exalted his kingdom for his people Israel's sake. And David took him more concubines and wives out of Jerusalem after he was come from Hebron. And there were yet sons and daughters born to David. These be the names of those that were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shammua, and Shobab, and Nathan, and Solomon, Ibhar also, and Elishua, and Nepheg, and Japhi, and Elishama, and Elida, and Eliphalet. But when the Philistines heard that they had anointed David king over Israel, all the Philistines came up to seek David. And David heard of it and went down to the hold. Because remember, there's a time where David served under the king of the Philistines. So now they heard David's now the king of Israel. So they're let's see what the situation is. How are our relations with him? The Philistines also came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go up to the Philistines? Wilt thou deliver them into my hand? And the Lord said to David, Go up, for I will doubtless deliver the Philistines into thy hand. So they ended up fighting in this valley, right? And the Lord said, Hey, I will deliver them into your hand. And David came to Baal Perazim, and David smote them there, and said, The Lord hath broken forth upon mine enemies before me as the breaches of water. Therefore he called the name of that place Baal Perazim. And there they left their images, and David and his men burned them. Images like idols. So that's why David burned them, right? Destroying idols out the land. And the Philistines came up yet again, and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And when David inquired of the Lord, he said, Thou shalt not go up and fetch a compass behind them, and come upon them over against the mulberry trees. The Lord's even instructing him how to win the battle. Because that's the great thing about the Lord and David, is that the Lord, David always inquired of the Lord exactly, what should we do, what should we do? And because he did that, the Lord answered him and told him, hey, this is what you should do, this is how you should do it, so on and so forth. And let it be, when thou hearest the sound of it going in the tops of the mulberry trees, that then thou shalt bestir thyself, for then shall the Lord go out before thee to smite the host of the Philistines. And David did so as the Lord commanded him, and smote the Philistines from Geba until thou come to Gazer. Alright, that's 2 Samuel 5. Yeah. David's made king over all of Israel, and we've seen David be set up to said to be king over Israel, and David set up Jerusalem to be the new capital. And we'll even get to see the Ark of the Lord. They'll eventually get moved there. That's where Solomon eventually, much later, will build the temple of the Lord there in Jerusalem, where the Lord's, if you remember in the law, we read about the place where the Lord's name will be called. That ends up being Jerusalem. It's like Jerusalem permanently. But because that's where they build the temple. But yeah, all that being said, it's a pretty good chapter. And with that, we finished our reading for today. Now, as always, thank you all for joining us. Let me see, a nice scripture we can read to end it out. Thinking of specific. I think Titus 2. Yeah. All right. So Titus 2. This is Titus 2, and I think I'm going to just read. Let's say 7. In all things showing thyself apparent of good works, and doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity. Sort of like, I feel like reading what we did today about David, even our 25 Proverbs for today, Proverbs 25. That in all things, at all times, we should work to, like it says here, showing a pattern of good works, right? That is uncorruptness in the righteousness of the Lord, with sincerity and gravity, right? Where it not even like, some people would say, like faking the funk. Like, we should want to be kind to people. We should want to forgive. And granted, that may be hard to do sometimes, right? But it's that diligence, it's that effort. And trust me, the more you do it, the easier it really is to do. That's all the trying of your faith worketh patience. The longer you do something, the more you are tried, the more you're able to learn and you are able to grow. Right? 8, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. This even goes back again to like the Proverbs 25, right? Where you're speaking well. If you're speaking in humility, if you're speaking in kindness, if you're acting in humility, people won't even be able to have something to say against you if they wanted to, right? That he that is of the contrary part that's against you may be ashamed because they have no evil thing to say against. They have nothing to say against you. So if they're contrary to you, there's nothing for them to say. They look as they're ashamed. Exhort servants to be obedient unto their masters and to please them well in all things, not answering again. Where we are all to be servants, right? We're servants all to the Lord, but we're meant to be servants to each other. Going back to the point of Proverbs 25 as well, right? We're all meant to be servants to each other. And he's basically saying, servants to masters, don't do it with, please them well in all things, not answering again. So basically, not getting, don't be wary in well-doing. In the same manner as that, don't do things with an attitude. Do things with sincerity. And that's 10 even elaborates. Not purloining, but showing all good fidelity, right? So not with irritated attitude or slothfulness. We should be willing and wanting to help everyone and to be in service to others, right? That they may adorn the doctrine of God, our Savior in all things. And that's for all of us. In all things, we all should be acting within the gospel and within the doctrine of the Lord, following his laws, acting as his servants, acting as the light of the world. For the grace of God that brings salvation hath appeared to all men, teaching us that, denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. We've seen the ways, the Lord's revealed to us how we should behave, right? Throughout this entire book from Genesis to Revelation, he showed us time and time again, whether through what sometimes we'll call the law, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, where it tells you don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Or we look at examples like in 1st and 2nd Samuel or in Genesis, or we look at the teachings of Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or just the things that Paul talks about in the epistles or wherever else. All of it is saying the same thing and showing us the same way of how we ought to live justly and righteously with God, right? And in this present world, looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great God and our Savior Jesus Christ. So that's who we do. That's what we do this for, right? Because we're hoping to enter into that eternal life with God, right? Who gave himself for us that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify unto himself peculiar people, zealous of good works. Because that's why he did it. He wanted to create a people for himself that are purified from all iniquity. That means we're not sinning. We're not breaking the law. We're following the Lord, right? Zealous of good works. So we're happy. We're zealous, which means we like doing it and we're diligent in doing it, doing good works, right? Which is this law and being humble and being kind. These things speak and exhort and rebuke with all authority. Let no man despise thee. And this is how we should all behave. And this is even how we should teach and show others to behave. Right? Because this is the right way. This is the good way. Even like he says, let no man despise thee. This is how we ought to behave. Right? And we ought to show and teach others to behave this way. And even to the point of Proverbs 25, how good of a thing is it when righteous rebuke falls on an obedient ear, where we all should be following this, and we all should be willing to hear rebuke from one another and listen to rebuke from one another when we fall short. Right? Yeah. With that being said, yeah, that's where we end it for today. 2 Samuel 1 through 5. Yeah, we got some really good reading. Lord willing, tomorrow we'll pick it up with chapter 6. And yeah, so Lord willing, I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.